I forgot in the last video about the second chapter on the teleological argument, namely the argument from fine-tuning. So I want to address that briefly now. Now I'm a bit confused by this chapter because I don't really get what. I guess I'll have to go back and read it again, but I'm not really sure the point that Paulus is trying to make. He spends most of the chapter talking about a doomsday argument, which is essentially that if when the world ends, um, we don't want to think that we're the generation where the world will end, but if it does end in our generation, we shouldn't be surprised because there's more people alive now than there were in the past, or something like that. But I'm not sure what that has to do with the fine-tuning argument. At any rate, this is the argument as he gives it, the fine-tuning argument. Premise 1. The values, physical constants, the matter-antimatter imbalance, and various other physical laws are necessary for human beings to exist. Premise 2. Human beings exist. Premise 3. The physics must have been fine-tuned to the constants' values to make us possible. The conclusion number 4. Therefore, the fine-tuner, God, exists. Then he says that the jump from assumptions 1, 2, and 3 in the argument sketched above is one of the weakest aspects of this argument. What does follow from assumptions 1 and 2, but notice he doesn't say and assumption 3, is that the values of the constants are what they are. And let's see, then he makes some comments about some versions of the anthropic principle are tautologous, and we wouldn't be here to observe the world unless they were right, so it doesn't really, the anthropic principle per se doesn't really say much. And then he goes on and says that the another way to object to the argument is to say that if the constants had been different, if they were fine-tuned, if they weren't fine-tuned, if they had different values, then a different form of life might arise. Well, this again is a misunderstanding of the argument. It's a misrepresentation of the argument. The argument is not that life as we know it couldn't evolve unless the fine-tuning were in place. It's that life in any form would be impossible. If the gravitational constant, the strength of gravity between two masses, were too strong, then the universe wouldn't be expanding. The universe would consist of just a singularity. So there couldn't be any life in zero space. If it were a little bit stronger, that would be the case. If it were a little bit weaker, then the universe would expand too much, and planets wouldn't form, and life, at least life on planets, would be impossible because there wouldn't be any planets to be inhabited. So it's not just carbon-based or carbon-based life; it's life, period. And that's just one of many parameters. They all have to be finely tuned, and they all have to work together in the right way. So that does seem a bit on the fishy side that would occur unless somebody, a divine designer, had stacked the deck in our favor. There could be different universes. I think Paulos gets into this briefly, that there could be different universes with a kind of physical evolution. Certain planets have life. Certain worlds have life. Certain ones don't. Certain universes do. Certain universes don't have life. And the fittest ones are the ones that are capable for life. And that multiverse idea, though, doesn't answer the question of why the multiverse itself is finely tuned. So yes, it is true we wouldn't be here to observe unless it was finely tuned, but I don't really see how that's relevant. It doesn't take away from the fact that we are here to observe the fine tuning, and the fine tuning calls for an explanation. And then at that point, after talking about the multiverse, apparently that was there's a physicist named Lee Smolin, who I believe is an atheist, but don't quote me on that. He was talking about the multiverse idea, and Paulus is quoting him on that. And then right after that, let's see if I can find it here. Right after that, he goes off into this doomsday stuff, which, as I said, I don't really. It's an interesting discussion, but again, I'm not really sure the purpose with respect to the teleological argument, the fine-tuning argument, that has. Let's see here. I can't find it. But yeah, so half of the chapter is this doomsday scenario, and then he talks about like a lottery machine where you've got different numbered balls, and the balls that come up are going to be, for example, like 2, 7, 8, 4 are kind of unlikely to come up, but something had to come up, and that certainly makes sense, and it's interesting. But the fact of having to, I believe what he's trying to get at is that when we calculate a probability, like the probability of the fine-tuning being in place, as more information comes in, we have to revise our estimation of the probabilities. I think that's kind of the basic point, but he's not very clear about that. And again, that's correct. If we don't have all the facts, then our probability calculation will have to be revised once we gain more knowledge, because probabilities are relative to the known facts. But the known facts that we have right now are that we've got fine-tuning that we shouldn't expect to see, but we do see it, and that calls out for an explanation. And the best explanation for that would be a divine designer who monkeyed with the dials of the constants. Alright, so last, we have the ontological argument, which we'll get to in the next video. Thanks for watching.